All right, in this lesson, what we want to do is go ahead and actually set up our matinee scene so that now we can start viewing this like a movie. Now, you know, in the last lesson, we got everything set up. We've got our digital actors, if you will, on the set. We've got the Unreal Scripted Sequence actors in there controlling everything. So everything's in pretty good shape, right, Logan?
Right, for the actual elements inside the map.
So now we need some cameras and ready to go, right?
Right.
All right, so let's do it. First thing we're going to do is go ahead and come over here, and we need to open up Matinee, and we are going to create a scene manager. So go ahead and come into this scene manager, and I'm going to come down to events and go ahead and give it a name, and we're going to call it Start Movie. Okay, you know what this is going to do already. You know, simply when this guy gets triggered, it's going to fire off the scene manager and these guys. But I'll tell you what. We're going to be taking this guy out here in a few minutes, and we're going to set it up so that one of these guys over here will be responsible for broadcasting out Start Movie, and we want to set this up so that the movie will start automatically when we start the game.
Right, we'll also change the game type so that it's simply for viewing.
Exactly, as opposed to playing. So now that we have got a scene manager in here, let's go ahead and set up some cameras. So I'll go ahead and come over here to Actions, and let's go ahead and put where we want the first camera to be. So maybe somewhere right about right there. So I'm just going to go ahead and come over here to Tools and tell it to add an interpolation point and action. Okay, so that's the first place we're going to have a camera. And we'll just have the camera just kind of, I don't know, maybe arc somewhere right about here. So let's go ahead and add that as another interpolation point. So this is what we've got. We've already seen something very similar to this over the past several lessons that we've been doing. Now what I want to do is go ahead and come in here and control how long it takes to get from point A to point B. And I also want to go ahead and control the curvature of our path. So I'll come back over here to Actions. And first thing we can do is come down here to Path and go ahead and set the path style. I'll just double click, go ahead and change it to Bezier. Right click, this is what we was talking about with it going crazy off the viewport in an earlier lesson. Straighten, so there you go. And now let's go ahead, before we forget, let's go ahead and change our duration. So I'll go ahead and cruise on down here and open up time and set duration to, we've got this timed out at about 3 seconds we're going to take to get from point A to point B. So now we can just come in here and I'm going to hit W to make this a little bit easier to see. Let's just move this on over and I can go ahead and hold Control and just put a little bit of an arc to it. And maybe make it where it's traveling just a little bit less, so maybe something like that. We don't want a lot of motion going on. So just kind of tweaking my curve just a little bit so we're not too curvy. There you go. All right, so we've got our very first camera motion, camera path, if you will, in place. Now what I want to happen is, basically what we're going to be doing is wrapping around right here while she kicks her, and that's going to take about 3 seconds. And then I want to do a camera cut over to the other side as she starts to back away and she hits the ground. So I'm just going to come over here and decide where I want the camera to be. So I don't know, maybe somewhere. In fact, let's just go ahead and kind of watch her a little bit. Maybe something like there. And this, of course, requires some tweaking once you actually get everything set up, and we'll show you how you can do that here in just a few minutes. So maybe something about that right there. So I'll come back over here again to Tools, and I'll go ahead and add another interpolation point in action. There we go, and look at that. We've already got our path set up. But remember, I want this to be a camera cut. So I'm not interested in any amount of time from traveling here to here. I want it to be instant. So if I come back over here to Actions, you'll see right now that the duration is 0, which is perfect. But what we need to do now is go ahead and put a pause in here to hold it at this interpolation point. So as we saw earlier, I can simply come up here to Add New Action and tell it to add an action pause. And then the important thing is to make sure that we come down, and that we set, actually, up under Matte Action, the interpolation point to this last guy right here. So we can just come in here and click Use. Okay? So now everything's set up good. We're going to snap. Now we need to make sure we have a pause time, and we'll just go ahead and set a duration of maybe 5 seconds or so for right now. What do you think, Logan? Looking pretty good so far?
Yep.
And if we wanted to, at this point, we could go ahead and come in here and preview everything. But there's going to be a slight problem. Check this out. Camera facing down path. So around here, snap, and what do you know? She's on the ground. And we're not really looking too well at our character right now. And again, it's because of the way that the camera is orientated. So we need to go ahead and fix that. So I'll come back to the very first action. And this means that I know I'm obviously going to be interested in applying a sub-action orientation. Okay? But I'm going to need something to look at. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of cruise over here close to where the actual kick's going to occur. Maybe right about here. That's good enough. And I'll come over here to Tools, and I'll go ahead and add an interpolation point. Just joking. I didn't mean to do that. Let's delete. Let's go ahead and come back over here. Add a look target. Sometimes I get a little too carried away, I guess. Okay, so we're going to have the camera focus on this during the entire animated sequence. Let's go ahead and come back over here to Actions, and with the first action selected, come over here to Sub-Actions, Add, and we'll simply come down to add a sub-action orientation. I'll expand orientation, come down up under Cam Orientation, and set its type from Face Path to Look at Actor, and then finally, with the Look at Actor still selected, I'll come down here to Look At and click Use. Okay? So now if we were to come back in here, let's go ahead and just hit our preview window there and hit play. This is what we've got. Much better. Okay? But you know, we may want this other one to be positioned a little bit differently right here. And not just that, we may also want to make sure that the contact is kind of aligned. Right, Logan?
Right. We just placed the actors in kind of at random. We didn't really line them up too well.
So at this point, now we're going to start doing a little bit of tweaking. And we can go ahead and do a couple of things at one time. Let's go ahead and get this part kind of fixed up. Now check this out. If I come down here and make this thing live, and start scrubbing back and forth, isn't that convenient? Why is it convenient? Because I can come down here and I can do stuff like that. So this is what we've got in regards to the animation. I'm just going to get this relatively close. So somewhere right in there is where our contact point is happening. So I can come up here in my top viewport and I can select her. But now this is not an actual pawn that's in the level, is it?
Right, it's actually just part of Matinee trying to give you a preview, and it's actually created a demo actor there.
So she's been temporarily spawned for this purpose.
That's right.
So when we play the game, of course, we're not going to see her, we're going to see the real deal.
What will actually happen is the real one, the real X pawn, is what's actually going to be animating. In this case right here, it added a demo actor to give you a preview of the animation.
So check this out. Here's a little tip for you. I can select her and the real one, as long as I got both of them. Then I can come in here and I can simply readjust. So maybe over a little bit, I don't know, somewhere right about there looks kind of good. And again, I can simply come down here and line things up. And let's go with about that. And now let's see what that looks like. So coming through, kick. So you can see how that's already a lot better. Okay?
And because the original X-Pawn was moved the exact same amount when they were both selected, that means once you go to actually play, the real X-Pawn will have the same fixed alignment.
That's right. So we've got that in place. Another thing that we may be interested in doing is adjusting the last camera location, or my last interpolation point, if you will. And that's real simple. All we need to do is make sure we come down here, and you're going to see both a camera and a camera icon, or you can say an eye and a camera icon. And Logan, you want to talk about this real quick?
Well, the place you have Matinee at is actually at that pause, so the camera that was being used inside the Matinee preview is at that interpolation point right now.
So as long as I select both of these guys, right?
Right.
And then I can just go in there and start adjusting things as need be. So perhaps, go ahead.
And then you can actually use the Matinee preview window to see exactly what's happening.
Exactly. So we can go ahead and come in here. Now, look at where the look at is right now. So I may want to actually, if I wanted to do another look at, and in fact, you know, what do you think? Should we do something like that?
Okay, change the orientation to a different look at target.
That may be kind of interesting. Using this, I can still see that she's somewhat in view, though that's probably going to change here in just a second. Let's go ahead and come over here, and she's going to be somewhere right in this area right here. So let's watch this. Let's go ahead and come back over here, and I'm going to go ahead and come over to Tools and add another look target. Okay, so you can see got another look target added. And now what I want to do is come back over here. Let's just get this out of the way just for the moment. Let's come back over here into Actions, and now I'm going to need to do another sub-action orientation, but this time I'm not going to want to do it on the first one, am I?
No, because our old look at is just fine.
So instead, yeah, for the original basically duration that we take the camera from this point to this point.
Right, right.
But then we have the cut to right here. So this guy, when we make the cut, is when we're going to be interested in using this guy here. So I'll simply select it, sub-actions again, come back in here, and add another action orientation. And then same thing we did a second ago. Go ahead and change its type over to look at. Come down to look at and tell it use. And with that in place, now let's go ahead and come back up here into preview and let's see what this looks like. It's now coming around, the kick, cut, and there you go. Okay, so nice. Now, of course, you may want to go ahead and come in here and again I may want to just grab this guy here and this guy here and adjust it so it's not so far away. You know, it's all up to you, basically. And we can just go ahead and, you know what, let's just go ahead and zoom that back and move this. This is for the oh yeah scene. So maybe something like that. What do you think? Decent?
Looks good.
It'll definitely serve its purpose here. So we'll come through, play, kick, and down to the ground, and perfect. Okay? Let's go ahead and turn that off. We no longer need for our viewport to be live back there for the simple fact we just used it long enough for lining things up. Even though you can come into your Matinee preview window here and move around like this, be very careful doing that. The moment you bump this or go to change something else, this will re-update the data and place the viewport camera, the one for Matinee, back at wherever it should be along the path at that given point in time.
That's right, because the Matinee preview window is used for showing where your camera is at.
Exactly. So by setting things up over here so that this is live and then making your camera adjustments, it makes things a lot easier because this stays completely free for you to update and it not be messed up by something else.
Right, it's a separate camera.
You got it. Okay, so with this, at this point we can go ahead and do a few more cinematic things such as put a fade in and maybe change it to a letterbox look, things like that. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. So I'll come back over here to Actions. Let's go ahead on the very first action. We'll select it, come back to Sub-Actions, and we're going to add another sub-action to the first action. We're going to do a sub-action fade. And we're going to say, I don't know, take about 2 seconds to fade in. So let's go ahead and come down here to time. Let's set duration to 2 seconds. And then even more importantly, up under fade, right now it's actually fading out. B fade out is set to true, so we'll just simply go in there and double click and change that to false. So now we'll be fading in from black, which is perfect. And we could, if we wanted to, add another fade in here and delay it a certain amount of time, or I could simply come back over here to Actions and drop down to the very last one, which is 5 seconds long. I can just come in here and say, add a fade on this one, and let's say perhaps it's just kind of think. What do you think? I'm going to do. I'm just trying to think how long we want to pause it out for.
2 or 3 seconds.
So 2 or 3 seconds, and
so delay for 2, fade for 3.
Yeah, let's try that out. What I'm thinking in my head is with the numbers that we've thrown in there, we may be a little bit too long for this whole thing. This will give us a feel for it right here, though. Let's go ahead and come back in and play. So we faded in. Good. Camera cut. And see, that's what I was thinking. We're actually too long. Yeah, way too long. That's why I was pausing there. So, you know what? Even though that last thing's 5 seconds long, the reason is we're just holding it up so that we can just kind of finish off some
Make sure that the hold is there until the fade's completely in place.
So what if we delay it for maybe a second and fade it then for a second? Let's see how this looks. Back over into preview again, play through our little movie. So kick and boom and fade. By the way, I will go ahead and point this out. You see how we'll get these little flickers in here from time to time? There's a really good, there you go. Don't worry about that. When you actually go into game, that's not there, okay? It's just something that we seem to get once we hit the actual end of the animation, but our timing goes on for a little bit longer in Matinee, okay? So, I don't know. That looks pretty good. What do you think, Logan? Around? Or we could even tell it to delay none and go ahead and start fading out right there. Let's take a look at this. That might even work a little bit better. So kick, snap, boom. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a little bit too short.
Oh, what do you say? Go ahead and delay it half a second?
Yeah, leave the delay in there.
Okay. All right, so we'll go ahead and leave that. We're being a little too picky here. Sorry, guys. Okay, so now we've got Matinee set up. We've got some fade-ins, some fade-outs. Happy with our camera stuff. Happy with the orientation stuff. Happy with everything's placement. Now we just kind of go ahead and get a little fancy. We'll come back over here to Scenes. Come back down to Scene Manager. And in here, perhaps go ahead and take the B Cinematic View and set it to True. And then let's go ahead and make this game now trigger as just a movie as opposed to a playable game that's going to give you a menu.
So change the game type so that it's for viewing only,
you got
as well as setting up the actual Unreal Scripted controllers to be in charge of triggering the Matinee sequence, since they're obviously going to have no chance to run up and hit a trigger.
Absolutely. So let's start out by coming up to View, coming down here to Level Properties. And then from inside here, we'll come down to Level Info and come down to the default game type. And we want to change this to Unreal Game.Cinematic Game. Okay, and that's going to make this thing go into as kind of a spectator mode, right?
Yeah, it'll look like a spectator mode with no HUD.
Exactly. Okay, so with that in place, the goal is for us to be able to come in here and get rid of this trigger down here. So I'm going to simply select this trigger and delete it out. Okay, now, at the moment, we've got 2 of these AI scripts that are waiting for that trigger to broadcast the start movie event. Well, let's fix this problem. I'll go ahead and come into the properties for this Unreal Scripted sequence actor there. I'll come up under AI script, come down to actions. There's the very first one where it is a wait for event. I'll tell you what, we're going to delete both of these, but I'm going to go ahead and take this guy here. I'll pick on this one since it was the first one, and I'll use this to broadcast out a start movie event because I'm still going to need the start movie event to trigger Matinee for me. Okay?
That's right.
So what I'll do is simply come up here, and as opposed to deleting it, I will go ahead and clear this one out. Okay, so now element 0 is at none. So let's go ahead and come down here and come on down, and we want to, I'm looking for trigger event. There we go. So we'll go ahead and tell it new, and the event that we're going to trigger, start movie. So bottom line is, this guy over here is now in charge of kicking off Matinee. And since there is no wait for here at the very beginning, as soon as the game starts, this fires, which will kick off Matinee. It'll fall straight through and start playing the animation. With that, though, we need to come down here, and we've got this go to action in there. We don't really need that no more, do we?
Not only that, it could cause problems because nothing there is latent at all. So it's going to be an instant infinite loop.
Exactly. So what do you say? We just delete this one out?
Yep.
We could do a wait for anim to come to an end, so wait for anim in, and then we could put go to menu for those out there that would like to experiment with that. And basically, after your movie's done playing, then it would go into the actual Unreal Tournament menu, so you're ready to play the game.
All right, and at that point, you pretty much have your own replacement intro movie for when Unreal loads up.
Exactly. So let's just go ahead and delete this one out. So this Unreal scripted sequence right here basically reads, trigger out the start movie, broadcast event, and then play the animation. Easy enough. Now let's go ahead and come over here to the other Unreal scripted sequence, and let's go ahead and close these guys up, just make things nice and easy to look at. We no longer need the wait for event up here, so I'll simply click and delete it out. So now it's just going to do a play animation. I'll come down here to the second one. We no longer need a go to action. I'll delete that one out. What do you say, Logan? You happy with this?
Yep.
Okay,
Definitely.
so things are really starting to take shape at this point. So if we want, I can go ahead and close this out. We can save this. And anything else that you can think of?
Yep, that should be it.
So let's take a look at what we've got. Let's go ahead and move Matinee out of the way. Launch the game. And here we go. Look at that. Right into the action. Okay? And it just goes and basically fades out right now. Now I've got O bound to basically autoplay so we can play it again. Hit it again. And this is what we just set up. We set up this live. Pretty good?
Definitely.
Okay. So let's go ahead and exit out of this and come back into Unreal Ed. And Logan, at this point, that's pretty much going to wrap up this lesson. And in the next lesson, we'll go ahead and add in all the sound effects and everything.
All right, just a few finishing touches.
You got it. So that's going to wrap this one up. Thanks, everyone.